Alright, back in the green. I haven't flown in green in a long time. I actually kind of prefer bandos these days, but today's a little bit different. So today is going to be Maiden Day, and it's going to be a little bit of Betaflight versus Kiss as well. How many quads can you fit in your bag, I ask you? I got 1, 2. Actually, I'll chuck these guys down here. Ha! Ha! And there we go. So, got the good old roosters here. So we got some same old Kiss roosters I always run. I've, gone over the setup on these guys a billion times. What's new today is these puppies here. So, I just built 2 Reverb frames for my friend Matt. So, long story short, so the story with the Reverbs is like, Matt is the dude who rescued my rooster from like a really crazy spot that I crashed in a bando. So he's the dude who like engineered a pole and went out there and got the thing back. So I was thinking, all right, well, how do I thank the dude? Because he offered to help me out with another, like he had a spare rooster lying around and all that. So I wanted to thank the guy. So I thought, well, maybe, I don't have a ton of money and stuff and whatever, and it's maybe not about money. So I thought maybe the best way I can thank him is by trying to build him a nice, reliable quad so that we can fly together and stuff like that. So Matt basically prefers the Reverb, and so he gave me a bunch of parts and I kind of put together the quad. So the setup on these Reverbs here is super simple actually. So it's got a Hobby Wing 45 amp 4-in-1 BL Heli 32. It's got the steel motors, and he is running Betaflight. So he's running a Fortini F4. It's actually the OSD Fortini, but more about that later. So we've got the TBS Unify back there. That's actually a Unify race, but that can be swapped out for a Unify, like whatever it needs to be swapped out for. Big ass capacitor in the back, and yeah, like the Crossfire Nano in the side here, and then a Foxier Aero CCD cam in the front. So my intention of building this is like I kind of took his parts that he likes and built it in my style. So like he prefers the Reverb to the Rooster because he says it's like lighter and a little more flickable and responsive and whatnot. So fair enough, I thought I'll build you some Reverbs. The only problem he was really having is with most Reverb builds, they run the XT60 out the side here and up to the battery, which makes sense, it's clean and everything like that. But he was having this issue with like the XT60 getting pulled off in crashes and stuff. So it was basically, it was pulling the traces off the PCB and causing all sorts of stuff. Basically he was just having a lot of Reverbs kind of go down on him, which sucks when you're trying to fly all day and your quad goes down. So my philosophy when I was building this is I wanted to focus on how can I build this Reverb and make it as reliable as possible. So there's a couple things I did. So you'll see I'm running the race wire here. Now the reason I like to run race wire is because it makes changing motors super easy. So like when you want to change a motor, all you got to do is unwrap that and you just unsolder like 3 things and solder the new motor on and you're done. It's super easy, you don't need to worry about anything, but most importantly you don't need to go anywhere near the stack. So if you have a motor problem, the stack gets left alone and you're just soldering down here, because quite often when you resolder stuff near your stack, like you can go in and you can unsolder, like guys run straight motor wires and wrap them and braid them and straight up to the 4-in-1, and that works, right? But I find that when you have problems and you're in the field and you want to do a field repair, quite often what happens is you might get a solder blob here or there or some flux or whatever when you're trying to poke in here and resolder these guys. So if you get a solder blob in the wrong spot, that can cause problems. It has caused me problems in the past. So So having the option to just change motors quickly is one thing. So it's basically one bolt, you unstick the race wire, solder here, done. You're not touching the stack. Of course, the other benefit of the race wire is it protects from prop strikes and stuff like that, and it gives you a bit of cleaner airflow around the arm, you know, so it's nice and clean and whatnot. That's why I like that. The other thing I've done that's not what most dudes do with these reverbs is I'm running the pigtail out the back. Now, that might seem weird, but what I've done is I've done it in such a way that he's going to run the XT60 through the side, zip tie it, and the battery's going to be there. So in a crash, okay, this guy here, there's a bit of silicone reinforcing it so that this little notch in the carbon isn't going to like short these wires out, hopefully. Although it's coming apart now, which is awesome, but that's fine. It's good to know. I'll improve that one way or the other. The idea though is that if he crashes hard, like in this XT60 gets pulled up, it's not going to put a ton of force on the main board there. So that'll help him avoid like pulling traces off. It'll avoid potential shorts, you know, if you pull a trace off and the battery's still connected. The only time he's going to be putting tension on that is if this guy gets pulled straight out the back. But in that case, I'm pulling along the length of the PCB, not up and down. So I'm not going to be trying to snap off the PCB so much. The solder joints themselves are really strong too. It's pretty well soldered together, if I do say so myself. I don't do the cleanest soldering in history, but I know how to make a strong joint. So yeah, he has a different way of running the XT60s that I think is better than running it up the side, even if it's maybe, you know, adds a little weight. It's maybe not quite as clean. The other thing I've done is I am actually not using the Betaflight OSD in this guy. So this board does support Betaflight OSD, but this particular board, I found the layout's just really crappy. So like the wires that have to go to the camera and the VTX just overlap in a really weird way with the wires that go to the 4-in-1 and the receiver, and it just became a mess and it didn't work. So I'm running the old school way where he's going to be getting voltage from the camera, and then you've just got one set of wire, and it's twisted wire, so it's running under the stack straight to the back to the VTX. Boom. So if he needs to change out a VTX or something, he unplugs that. You can slip the VTX out, slip a new one in, you're good to go. Ditto with the crossfire receiver. So it is running from there under the stack. It's twisted to eliminate interference, and it's sticking out right here. So if he has any Model T's broken or whatever, he could theoretically just pop that guy off and pop the back off. Like, you can get into the back here just by unscrewing the 4 bolts at the back of the frame. You don't even need to remove the whole top plate. It's super simple. It's pretty old school, but you know, it should work. I've got both the 4-in-1 and the flight controller soft mounted, although these are hard mounted posts. Normally I prefer the rubber ones, but this just built a little bit cleaner, and this is what these are like the parts I had or whatever. So hopefully I'm not going to get a bunch of oscillations. And yeah, that's about it. Good old reliable CCD camera on it, and I'm here to Maiden this sucker. So it's been test spun on the bench, everything works, it sounds good and everything. Oh yeah, the other little mod I did is instead of running the foam on the top, I'm running this little sticky goop. It's similar to the Umagel, but it's sold by ImpluseRC, and it's just that sticky stuff. So like, it holds the battery a bit better in place in crashes, but also you can just peel it off and clean it and stick it back on, so you don't end up with one of these. Like, the thing about the foam I've seen on every single frame, including the Rooster by the way, is that when you use the foam on top, which most things come with it, like what happens is it tends to wear out, get all ganked up, and then what you end up with is these situations where it kind of gets compressed, and then your bolts are going to be touching the lipo and stuff, and that's just really crappy and shitty. So I'm probably going to upgrade my Roosters at some point to use that rubber as well. I just don't see why you wouldn't. Ideally, the manufacturers should just, the same way they're laser cutting the foam, they should just laser cut this rubber and just be done with it. It's a way better solution, and you can pull it off and put it on anytime you want to clean it. I don't know why more people don't do that. Anyways, that's like kind of how I built the Reverb. I do have a couple thoughts on the Reverb frame itself as well. compared to the roosters. So there's things I like about the Reverb and what I don't like. So what I like about the Reverb is the way this whole center section is designed. This is really nice and solid and sturdy. I like that they're using 2.5 mm bolts down here. Just lets you torque down on things without stripping stuff. Basically the X configuration here, I really like it. It should make changing arms really easy. The arms lock in really well. Seems really stable. And yeah, and that's kind of the only thing I like about this frame. Well, no, okay, I do like the lockable camera mount. That locks down really nice, holds the camera angle in place really good. So that's the only other thing I like. Everything else about this frame I find a little bit weird personally. I find that I find that the carbon they're using is a bit thin. So this plate back here, it's just super thin, man. I can see that breaking pretty easily if you crash it just the right way. And I do like the way they have a middle standoff here. It does make it triangulates the front little structure here, but I kind of wish they had a little more, maybe run 2 more standoffs there or something like that. It would have given me more options to mount the XT60 and whatnot. I could have zip tied stuff to it. As is, it's just all carbon down here. So I don't think this guy is going to be nearly as crash survivable as the Rooster, because you've got a bunch of carbon, and yeah, it's pretty good carbon, but it's just carbon and standoffs. And I find that in bando situations and whatnot, that all those frames, none of them really just stand out that well. This guy's got to be a bit of reinforcement, so he's got the TPU bumpers and stuff. The end of these arms I find is pretty weird. I don't know why there's a hole in it. Why bother? I don't see the point. Yeah, maybe you run motor wires through it, but I'm pretty sure that if you crash this sucker, you're gonna snap that whole end of the arm off. So that's just kind of an anachronism. I don't know who runs wires under the arms anymore. Strange. But anyway, does it save weight? Probably not. No more than the TPU's adding back in. So I don't know. That's just I like the arm design. I like the center section design, the top plate design, like the way that you've got one piece here of one thickness, and then another piece there in the back that's really thin. I don't know, it's clever. It's clever packaging, but it means that you can't reuse these plates in different ways or places. I don't know, maybe if that plate and that plate were the same design, you could just swap them around if you cracked one of them or something like that. I don't know though, I'm gonna defer judgment, I guess. But yeah, it's not a bad frame overall. If you're gonna go with the standoff style frame, it's pretty decent design. I don't know, I think they maybe should have thought about this a bit more at the back, or maybe I should have. Running your pigtail out the side, in my experience, just not the way to do it. It does work, but it's not the tough, sort of durable way of doing it. You do not want to be putting strain on your 4-in-1 and your solder joint. So yeah, as far as standoff frames go, it's pretty good. Not perfect. The other thing is the carbon, so it's pretty good quality carbon, but I don't know why they're still shipping carbon that they want you to sand yourself or whatever. That's ridiculous. None of the Chinese guys are doing that, and at the price point this frame's at, look at what Astro X carbon looks like. I mean, I'm not doubting the quality of this carbon in terms of the strength, but don't make me finish my own carbon. And I didn't actually touch the carbon, so this is pretty sharp friggin' carbon here as it is. That's pretty much it. I think the TPU parts help a lot with this guy, so hopefully it'll be nice and durable. Today's gonna be the first day I fly this, so yeah, hoping for the best. Now, of course, there's one other elephant in the room which I'm going to be kind of interested in, which is Betaflight versus KISS. I don't fly Betaflight, so depending on how today turns out, if these guys fly really well, they're running Betaflight 4 right now, which should be pretty good as long as I don't have that problem where the quads go to the moon. It's going to be really interesting to see how this sort of up-to-date Betaflight 4.0 build holds up, or how it flies compared to my KISS roosters. They're pretty similar setup. The frames are different obviously, but they got the same motors. They're going to be running the same lipos, you know, same like Crossfire, VTX, whatever. These guys are running a BL Heli-S stack with GSOT 600 and the KISS version 1 flight controller. It's a bit of an old tech setup, but nothing wrong with it. This dude's running the latest Betaflight with all the bells and whistles. Now I do know that, yeah, I'm probably going to have to do a bit of tuning with the Betaflight. I will do that. I'm running similar rates on both these to make the maidening a little easier on myself. But I'll be kind of keeping an eye on that too. A maiden day could go either way. I could just end up like struggling with tuning the quad, for example, and not really get much hardcore flying in, so I might not even really have a good take. I might even just not figure out how to tune Betaflight very well. So a lot of things could happen, but Betaflight versus KISS will be something I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Yeah, I've decided to maiden the Reverb first because, well, it'd be good to know if they fly or not, and I can do all my granny flying on the Reverb, and I don't know, just save a bit of time, I guess. I do want to make sure that my buddies' quads fly, and I don't want to be screwing them up either by crashing them. Alright, I've got our LiPo mounted up here. So I'm just going to test hover it first and make sure it doesn't spaz out, and then I'll fly the guy. Basically do that little stupid test hover just to make sure that the friggin' thing doesn't go nuts and like just kill everyone, and it didn't. So far so good. Now I'm gonna go goggles down on this sucker. Flies pretty good for something straight out of the box, actually. Seems to have a bit of prop wash, and that's it, really. Just a lot of prop wash, you know, a bit of twitching and stuff. So let me see what I can do about that. wouldn't say that this Betaflight setup is perfect yet, but it's a lot closer to what I'm used to with KISS. And as you can see, I can do all the same stuff with the Betaflight quad. This guy's just got a little bit of weird prop wash. I don't know, that could be the props or something. Aside from that though, like, they're both really good. Still like the KISS better, but this guy's good as well. So my conclusion is that, okay, I still prefer KISS, but I think it's all a matter of how well you set up the quad, really.